Active construction at the Engels-2 Air Base in Russia's Saratov region indicates that Russia is preparing for new waves of missile strikes against Ukraine, according to Ukrainian intelligence. The Main Intelligence Directorate, HUR, notes that this base is the source of these massive attacks. The Arata Special Forces Unit of the Main Intelligence Directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine announced the expansion of the Engels-2 Air Base on its Telegram channel. Intelligence officers note that this base is the main hub of Russian strategic aviation from which missile carriers launch attacks on Ukraine. The Main Intelligence Directorate reported that the occupiers are pouring concrete in the northern part of the airfield and preparing 12 new parking bays for Tu-95MS, Tu-160, Su-34 and Su-35 aircraft. Intelligence officials recalled that Ukrainian drones had previously struck Engels-2, destroying dozens of cruise missiles and fuel depots, with the explosions heard even by residents of the regional capital, Saratov. The active construction indicates that Russia is preparing for new waves of attacks. Ukraine needs to build up its own deep strike capabilities, drones, long-range missiles, and precision-guided weapons to preemptively strike such bases, the Special Forces Press Service noted. OSINT analyst Avi Vector posted satellite images of active construction at the Engels-2 Air Base on October the 11th on X. He noted that concrete pouring had begun on the northern section of the apron, and on September the 30th, the same was happening on the southern section. The Russians plan to build 12 parking spaces and connect them with the rest of the airbase via taxiways. The airbase, which houses strategic bombers, is located 700 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. Avi Vector explained that the Russian armed forces will receive 12 new bomber parking areas, which will be connected to the rest of the airbase via taxiways. Another OSINT researcher, Stefan B2023, added that the Russians had already hatched plans to expand the airbase in 2016 after a major overhaul. He said work began in March 2025. The taxiways will connect at a notional intersection, he indicated in a satellite image. The taxiways will form a large circle and connect to the areas marked in yellow. Stefan B2023 wrote, "It's worth noting that Engels-2 is a Russian airbase in the Saratov region of Russia, from which strategic bombers launch missile strikes against Ukrainians. The airbase is designed to accommodate Tu-95 aircraft, capable of launching 6 to 8 Kh-101 missiles, and Tu-160 aircraft, capable of launching approximately 12 Kh-101s. These bombers participated in the massive strikes. Now the expectation is that Ukraine will launch devastating strikes with missiles and drones on Engels-2 Air Base. This is also important for protecting Ukrainian cities from attacks." Against the backdrop of the ongoing war against Ukraine, discontent is increasingly being voiced within Russia itself, even among those groups the Kremlin has come to regard as loyal. A scandal erupted yesterday at a gathering of so-called war veterans in Siberia. As reported by agency, combatants openly criticized the federal government, propagandists and the Kremlin's inaction in the situation regarding the humiliation of the military. At a meeting of veterans of the so-called SVO, about 100 occupiers spoke out against the pressure on musician Yuri Shevchuk, Ramzan Kadyrov's attacks on General Vladimir Shamanov, and the behavior of TV presenter Vladimir Solovyov. They said the Russian leadership's demonstrative silence is fueling a sense of betrayal among the military. A certain Shimov from Omsk harshly stated that the authorities had failed to respond to Kadirov's public insults of General Shamanov. He emphasized that the Kremlin's silence was demoralizing both the military and the youth. How can young people respect the state if they can slander a hero of Russia with impunity? Savin, head of the Kuzbas Veterans Organization, added that many soldiers took Shamanov's humiliation as a personal insult. The authorities are doing nothing, there's no reaction, and all of this is perceived as a slap in the face. Sergei Zasorin, deputy director of the Center for Regional Cooperation at Moscow State Pedagogical University, was forced to agree with the criticism. He called Kadyrov's attacks a mistake by the top leadership and acknowledged that the Kremlin should not have allowed the general's public flogging. Another target was propagandist Solovyov, accused of venality. Veterans were perplexed why a man who licks where it's profitable continued to broadcast on a federal television channel. The Shevchuk situation also received attention. Occupier Kirillov expressed outrage that the legendary musician, who once performed for free for soldiers during the war in Chechnya, was now being silenced for his anti-war stance. He claimed the authorities were declaring anyone who dared to speak the truth enemies. Such open criticism is extremely rare, especially from war veterans, whom the Kremlin is accustomed to using as propaganda tools. Therefore, this case is one of the few such precedents. Recall, yet the return of Russian soldiers from Ukraine is already straining families and communities, with violent crimes drawing headlines and neighbors on edge. With some 700,000 men still fighting, the country now faces the far larger test of what will happen when they all come home. War veterans often find it difficult to integrate back into civilian society, even with psychological support and rehabilitation programs. Dr. Jenny Mathers, senior lecturer in international politics at Aberystwyth University, told the Moscow Times, "The absence of such support for many Russian war veterans, combined with the emphasis in Russian society on men displaying certain types of masculine behavior, such as toughness, concealing softer emotions such as sorrow or fear, will make it even harder," said Mathers, whose research focuses on Russia's war in Ukraine. Cases of returning soldiers committing crimes have been steadily growing.